Jules, it's time for free your mind and your soul. Yo, half the story has never been told. Ladies, you got to demand what you want, and what we want is respect, right? Yo, just sit up on the track, I know so you have to deal with it right. Freedom every time for the sisters. Check this. Watch this.
And here we go now. Listen, if I'm boom boom rule, I be the ruler like Slick Rick. Hit with this quick witted Adidas wearing chick. Papa got a brand new bag. Mama got a brand new Jag. Or go tag. I ain't no old hag. I represent not only in the kitchen, in the bedroom, but also in the boardroom. So give me more room. Deny my opportunity. You in jeopardy. Yo, set me free. Don't hinder me. Let me be.
I'm fighting for freedom. I got the heat in case you need them. Straight soldier. Ain't nobody told ya. Hold up on them lies. I know your games and your plans.
Oh, hey, there we are. We've been struggling today. We've been having some technical issues. Sorry about that, everybody, but thank you for being flexible and joining us. Jules, you're still muted. I don't know what's going on.
There we go.
We're alive.
We are. Hello. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, everybody from around the world, wherever you happen to be. I hope you are doing very well on this fine and lovely Sunday. It's always fun to start off the show with some interesting technical things going on.
I think we're off and sailing. I think we're going to be okay now. So I'm good. We're good.
We certainly are. Would you like to introduce yourself, Adam?
Sure. Hi, I'm Adam Andrews Johnson. I've written a couple of horror books here. The Mantis Variant and The Mantis Equilibrium, the first two books in my series. And actually, the third book in my series, The Mantis Corruption, literally went live today. So that book is available now on ebook, and you can order the paperback if you want. I don't even have my own physical copy of the paperback yet, but I'm really excited about that. So that's out. And yeah, I've also got a queer norm epic fantasy adventure book that is this massive 600-page tome that deals with heavy issues like human sexuality and gender that Jules' company, Danu Books, is releasing next year, 2024. So we're super excited about that. And that's who I am. Yeah, that's me. All my characters are basically queer. Like even though in this book there's no sexuality like talked about, they're like they're all gay. They all are. It's just wonderful. That's what I am.
Yeah,
that's
who they are. It's just who they are. It's not what the story's about, which is pretty cool. I have a very serious thing I need to talk to you about, though.
Well, you need to introduce yourself first.
Well, I will do in just a moment, but this is really important. I need you to hear this.
Tell me.
Okay. You're making my TBR pile huge. Can you stop writing?
Who said that? Oh, you're saying that to me? Oh.
Yeah. It's like every 3 months I have another book piled. I'm like, oh, it's going to be like that never-ending pile. Or what is it in movies, isn't it, where they have like the never-ending fountain that you have to try and get to the bottom of to succeed in your quest.
My test readings of book 3 have been promo code. I don't know what that was. Something just popped up on the screen.
It wasn't me. That's me.
My test readers for book 3 were like, wait a minute, you're going to leave us hanging at the end? So there's more to come. So we'll go to book 4 and there'll be book 5 at some point. It'll just go forever. Yeah. So.
No, I am absolutely, of course, not being serious. I want you to keep writing forever.
Yep. And I think that's why we do this show, because we love writing, we love being authors, and we love celebrating other authors. And yeah, so.
Absolutely. It's just like you're punching them out faster than I can kind of get them, and it's just like I feel so behind.
No, these are short books. These are nothing like my 600-page monster that you're releasing. These things, I just pop them out. They're easy, you know. So tell us who you are. Who are you? I don't know who you are. Introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Oh. Well, I am me. I'm Jules. I am an author. My main genre is dark fantasy, but it also has elements of Dungeons and Dragons and sword and sorcery and all that kind of stuff. I love science fiction as well, so it's got dabbles of that in it too. It's a bit of science fantasy as well. I'm in the process of writing 2 series, one for kids and one for young adults upwards. And they center around basically trauma recovery and
Somebody's laughing at us. We're having a good time. We're having a good time.
That's Doc. Hope you're well. It's I've completely lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Your young adult and up dark fantasy series.
Oh yeah, that's it. I think it's gonna be one of those nights tonight, isn't it? Hey, David. And so, yeah, it's basically centering around trauma and trauma recovery and how mental health can have an impact on someone and how they can work their way through it to sort of find a healthier you with that sort of dark fantasy backdrop going on behind it. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm also in the process of writing 3 more books, one with my wonderful co-host here, which I'm very excited about. I may drop some little breadcrumbs today. We'll see. Maybe. And the other 2 are book 3 from my children's series and book 3 from my other series. I also run a Discord server, which is also, there are some amazing admin people on there as well who do the bulk of the work, the lion's share, shall we say, of all the stuff on there. And it's just for authors, writers and poets, and also for beta readers as well. So if you're interested in becoming part of that crew, then you can reach out to either one of us and we can sort you out with a link. And I also do publishing, as Adam so eloquently introduced. So I'm in the process of publishing about 8 books at the moment, all of which are completely different. And they're amazing, all of them. So I'm very excited.
Unique voices. We love that you celebrate unique voices at your publishing company. Yep.
Yeah, I love the unique voice. That's not a very good heart, is it? That's better.
All right.
That's a wonky heart. Yeah, I love unique voices. So here you go, look. This is better. There we go.
Boop, there it is.
Supposed to be a heart. I love unique voices. I think they're really important and really representative of people in general. And I think that there shouldn't be a one shoe fits all kind of thing going with books, which I find in some companies. So that's my goal. Unique voices, especially LGBTQ, especially people from various types of religions, various groups. Yeah, backgrounds, the whole works. So it's completely open to that, and it is very centered on that author's unique voice, and that's it. That is my kind of goal. So there you go. That's a little bit about me. Now then, let's get started. We're going to talk today about how we started as authors or writers or poets, and the process from that very first little spark all the way through to getting either published or, self-published or traditionally published or however you are published. And what we've done and what works, what didn't work for us, bearing in mind every person's journey is unique. And the other thing as well, we're very close to getting 100 subscribers, which is amazing. So thank you to our community. I know, it's so exciting.
Everyone, yeah. Make sure you're following along on YouTube. I've got my YouTube open so I can comment along while we're talking. But please feel free to ask questions of our guest authors that are about to join us. But we're excited to talk about the process, the starting to the public, to what I finished this morning. I've got my book out, a new book out this morning. The whole thing self-published. So that's what we're going to talk about from start to finish.
And one of the things that I've read a lot of online, I suppose a lot of authors do this when they're sort of like trying to Google to find out what they need to do in order to get from start to finish. It tends to be very similar stories, doesn't it? Where people, they send off 20 odd, submissions and hear back from hardly any of them. And most of them, if they do send anything back, are always like declining offers. And whilst, that does seem to be, the sort of the sort of the main bulk of what's going on with it. Actually, each person's journey from start to finish is completely unique.
Mhm.
And what happens to one is not the same as what happens to other people. And obviously there's things that go on in between. And quite often it's luck. You have to have the right person read it on the right day at the right moment. And, and that can also be very difficult because,
Well, I think success means a lot of different things for a lot of different people. Some people just want their books to be read by whoever wants to read them. Some people want to make lots of money off their books. Some people want their books to be turned into movies and TV shows. And so our goals, I think, are all unique also. And
absolutely.
I think that helps drive sort of where we go with our process. Yeah.
I completely agree. And one of the things that we like doing on here as well is having our guest authors and sometimes the hosts as well actually read some bits from their work. So, we're going to invite our wonderful guest authors on in just a moment. So if you are interested in doing some reading today, you're very welcome to. And also our discussions that we have on here there's no like taking turns as in like we'll say your name and expect you to speak. You're welcome to just say what you want. So join in the discussion. It's an open discussion between all of us.
And like to keep it nice and casual. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. It has to be casual. Bit cash. Why not? All right, let's welcome our wonderful guest authors on. Hang on a second. Let's see.
Clicking buttons, pushing buttons. Nothing's happening.
Well, it's not now. You make me laugh. I've got to concentrate for this. Technology and me when I'm talking just don't work.
The
no, let's see.
Side of things is sometimes the struggle.
I know. Hang on, there we go.
Hey! Yay! Hi, friends.
Hi. Are you all muted? Let me see.
Yeah, make sure you unmute your microphone. Yes, please.
There we go.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Matilda, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your writing and what inspires you?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So I'm Matilda Reyes. I write urban fantasy and PNR. Well, I'm dipping my toes into PNR. That probably won't come out until next year because deciding on the spice, essentially.
Yeah.
It'll be pretty spicy, not going to lie. So I started writing in 2014. After I became disabled and no longer to work. I have lupus and other diseases. And after a year, I reached the end of Netflix. You can only watch so much.
Is it end point? Wow.
It felt like it. It so felt like it. And I just got so bored. I thought to myself, why not? So I opened up a blank document and started typing.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool start.
I self-published my first book 2 years later. And then each year after that, I published my trilogy. And here I am many years later.
Wow. Exciting. Well, we're hoping to hear a lot more about that. Very, very cool.
Definitely. All right.
Edward, would you like to introduce yourself as well and tell us a little bit about your work?
Sure. My name is Edward. I am a publisher of Flower Song Press. I'm also an author, poet. I have 8 collections of poetry with a new one coming out this summer. And let's see, I started writing poetry when I moved to Texas around 2000. And so, yeah, I mean, pretty much became a Texas poet. Originally, I'm from Los Angeles, California. And just found the writing bug while I was over here. Life was a little slower over here than it was in California, so I guess I had the time to just relax, enjoy the slowness of life, and think.
Oh, wow.
and I've always been a fan of lyrics and writing and reading and stuff. So a lot of the people that inspired me to write poetry at the beginning were just authors that I loved enjoying their novels and then finding out that they also wrote poetry, which comes a little easier to me than to write a story, Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. That's wonderful. Yeah. We love great poetry, and I can't wait to hear what if you're comfortable sharing with it. I'd love to hear you read something. That'd be so great.
Sure.
That'd be amazing. Welcome.
Excellent. And Jonathan and Elizabeth, you're the first two people we've ever had on one screen together. This is pretty exciting.
It's very exciting.
Well, I guess I will go first because I started talking first. I'm Elizabeth, and I write a little bit of everything, but some of my current works in progress is a dystopian romance and a memoir biography, and we also write a bunch of short stories because we're a publisher with Collected Tales Publishing. So I'm currently writing also a dystopian short story. So. Pretty exciting. But,
awesome. Busy. That's amazing.
Yeah, I've always written even as a kid. Like when they first taught us how to write when I was in kindergarten, I just kind of fell in love with it then. But yeah.
Wow. And do you have I meant to ask everybody this. Please put your websites and everything in the little chat over here on the side of the screen, because we'll pop those on the screen when you're up reading. And we'd love to have you read anything, a short story or a part of one of your books. That would be wonderful. And
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Also, Liz is the president of a romance writing group.
Well, not a president anymore. I'm the founder. Yeah.
She founded and was the first president.
Yeah, I was the first president, but now someone else has very graciously taken the reins, so I can just do writing.
She did a George Washington and stepped out. Yeah. So that's an interesting question that people always ask. Like, when did you start writing? And I'm like, when I was like little, they taught us how to write in kindergarten. I mean, I've always been a writer in my mind. So that's kind of, but, I used to be a sci-fi writer, but I never got anything published. Nobody wanted any of my sci-fi stories. And then I gave up, I think, kind of for a long period because I got married, I had kids, I was busy. And then after I got divorced, I had all this extra free time, and I met Liz and we became friends because we were both writers and editors. And I started writing again. And it turns out, like, I'm actually a pretty decent horror writer. So I've horror stories to different places, and I've written this last year, like maybe 100, well, maybe like 75 to 80.
Yeah, you got a little obsessive.
Flash fiction horror stories.
Just like, let me read this 100-word story like every single day.
Yeah, like they're all under like 500, under 1,000. Most of them under 500. But like, yeah, I just started pooping them out. So I just so
Yeah, you're so many.
So most of the stuff I write now is horror, but I do also like we're still writing sci-fi and
you do
fantasy.
have a short story sci-fi in one of our stories. So
that's true. In Collective Visions. I'll show you that.
Maybe you should read that one for this later. I don't know. We'll see.
Anyway, and I also like writing poetry, but mostly it's like narrative, kind of short.
I like prose poetry. I really love writing prose poetry.
That's cool.
Well, I'm so glad everybody's here today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. This is so wonderful.
We've got a very active chat group going on as well at the moment, which is very cool. Online on the live thing, we've had quite a few comments, which is quite nice. Hello, everybody on the chat who's been messaging and saying hello and stuff.
And hello to everyone who's watching and not chatting, just hanging out with us right now. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna just put this out to all of you. You're all welcome to say your thoughts and what you think and stuff. So we're talking today about how we started and how we got to the point where we're at now. So getting pen to paper or fingers to keys, and then
any part of that journey that you really liked or was really interesting to you, we'd love to hear about it because it's like Jules said, it's so unique for everyone.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people out there who have that idea, who really want to do something about it, who feel really passionate about it, but don't really know where to start, don't really know what to do. And one of the things that I hear a lot is people feel really awkward when they first start writing. They find that it's almost like someone's watching them. They feel uncomfortable. And so that could be a hurdle on its own to sort of, jump over. But yeah, any part of your journey, I think, would be really useful to hear for everyone, because I think it's so, it can be so challenging. It's what's the right word to describe it? It's a very fickle very fickle industry to get into, and everyone has their own passions and ideas and you know, processes that they go through to get to where they want to get. And like Adam quite rightly said earlier, everyone's end point is also very different. So yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I could jump in, and I think when it comes to being, I'm uncomfortable with writing or publishing or whatever, just own it. Just lean into the discomfort. You're gonna be I'm uncomfortable right now. Look at me, I'm live. But I'm here doing it because it's also, it's like I said, it's like it's challenging, but it's exciting and it's rewarding. And the other thing is, you're probably gonna have a bunch of failures. We all do, and that's every time you start a new thing.
Humanity,
yeah. I mean, I still get rejected a lot, even though, you know, I get stories published here and there. But like, that's just part of it, being uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's just practice. You know, doing it so much, you'll start just like, even if you're uncomfortable, you'll get to a point where you're okay with that discomfort.
Yeah, that's good advice, actually. Really good advice. I think lots of people find being uncomfortable in something like that quite difficult to deal with, don't they? So no, that's really good. Thank you.
I would add to that, you have to be comfortable not producing a bestseller your first time around. I always say, like, the first draft is vomit on the page. And I feel that way about the early books. My writing benediction to people is, may your last book be the worst thing you ever write. And the idea is that each book should subsequently get better and better. But you have to be okay with realizing that you may not be the best writer in the world right away.
Or ever, I think, because I think only about 1% of all writers actually even get to that point, don't they? It's like a really tiny percentage.
Plus, you know, you don't want to fall into the pit trap of equating popularity or sales with being a good writer. I mean, there are plenty of kind of crappy books that end up in Barnes and Noble, and I know lots of good independent writers who hardly sell anything. So it's like, these are different kinds of measures than.
That's something that I'd say to every author that says that, feeling like, why am I not making sales? Because they're not a reflection of how good you are. That's your ability as an author is not reflected by how many sales you make, how good you are at marketing. These type of things aren't everybody's strengths. But we on the Book Slam, we love to celebrate creative people. So that's why we bring unpublished and self-published authors. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. Well, and published authors. Yeah, just a whole plethora of them. But yeah, you're right.
Go ahead, Edward. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, it's like your favorite musicians, right? They have their B-sides. They have, I mean, you don't love every single song on an album unless you force yourself to. So I think just being comfortable knowing that you're just writing, and also respecting the times when you can't write, and not look at it as writer's block. I always think that, to me, writer's block is such a myth. It's just, I think it's just your heart, mind, and soul resting until it's the next explosion of artistic expression. But, you know, I think you have to give yourself that, you know, I think you have to treat yourself with kindness when it comes to writing, and not feel like you have to always be producing. Because I've read, you know, people that I'm really inspired by, and I don't love every single one of their collections. But I also believe that you can always go back to those same writings and find a nugget that inspires you. I think with it, like, for example, with poetry, I think poetry is just like a living organism on a page. It teaches you, or it inspires you, or it talks to you in a different way, you know, depending on your mood or depending on how you're feeling at the moment. Sort of like what people will, I guess the best way to say it is like people that go and read their Bible, people that are really, you know, into their faith. They'll read a psalm to find an answer, right? I think poetry does that to the non, you know, to the person not looking for faith-based inspiration. But I think everyone has an epic line in them. Maybe it won't be for them, but for the reader, you know, for the person on the other end. And I never I never took to school. I graduated high school barely. I taught myself how to read, to the point where I understood what I was reading and not having to go back 20 pages to find out who the protagonist is, and just didn't have anyone telling me that's not how you write, or that's not a poem, or that's not, correct punctuation, but just, letting myself just express myself and allow the strength of my vulnerability to do it for me. And so, it's always a learning experience, and just knowing when to take a break from writing, and it's like reading. When you go through a reading spell and you're just crazy about reading and you can't wait to get home from work to read the next chapter, or you don't want to fall asleep because the book is so good. Well, and then you go through periods of not reading, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't understand why you're not picking up the book that's there on the corner by your bedside, but it's because you're full at the moment of it. So same with writing, I think.
Well, and I'd love to add that I think that writing is a very harshly judged activity, whether it's a profession or hobby. I think that culture sort of judges, oh, you're a writer, and I think most people, it's dismissive. I think it's a trope in movies that oh, you're a writer, but you haven't written anything in 10 years. Ha ha ha. Like, I think there's sort of a dismissiveness to writers, and I think that's sort of ingrained in all of us also, that we have to get over that. That, like you said, writer's block isn't really a thing. It's just you need a break, and then you'll get back to it again at some point.
That also reminds me. I think a lot of people are either maybe embarrassed, but like they're not willing to say I'm a writer until I've published a bunch of books and I'm famous, whatever. They call themselves aspiring writers, which to me is hilarious, because if you're writing, you're a writer. You're not an aspiring writer. Yeah. There's no such thing as an aspiring writer. There's a writer and there's someone who's not writing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're either aspiring or you're accomplished. Those are the two sides of the coin for me. You're either thinking about writing and hey, you're aspirational and great. You're contemplating ideas, or you're writing something and you're accomplished. You're already putting it. This is an accomplishment. You're doing it. May not be done, but we just love writers. So yeah,
I've seen some quite demoralizing things on social media and on some websites as well, where traditionally published authors have stated that unless you are traditionally published, then you cannot call yourself an author. And I've also seen that remarks and comments and statements that published authors work harder because they're better writers and therefore spend more time writing, and that's their job. And the thing is, first of all, I've seen a lot of really...
Is that your dog smacking stuff back there? Sorry, everybody, that noise.
Yes.
Little distracting.
Sorry.
Real serious conversation. Clang, clang, clang.
Yeah, sorry. I apologize if you hear the noise again. He's brought his bowl up from downstairs. It's like a metal bowl, and he's now on the floor, like licking every single tiny bit out of it. Is my son to come and get it? Understand?
Hey, like we said, we're real casual on this show. We're real casual.
So yeah, and I think it's a real shame, because it really takes away from the fact that actually even a lot of traditionally published authors are also having to work, 2 jobs or another job as well as their writing. But even if they are traditionally published, and they, when I say traditionally published, I mean through like the big printing presses. I'm not talking about independent publishers in that sense, because I think it's a slightly different way of being published, because you have a much more personal relationship with the person who's publishing you. Whereas the traditional publishing houses, the big ones, they tend to be, they have the money to do a lot more with their authors because their income is greater and various other bits and pieces. And so the traditionally published authors don't tend to have the requirements to have more than one job, as well as their writing, financially speaking. I think that the judgment that people make about non-traditionally published authors is incorrect, because I agree with you guys that I've read some really, really crappy published books, and and then I've seen books on the New York Times bestseller list, and I'm like, I don't even know how that got there, apart from they had clearly a very wealthy family who could buy 1 million books, which then meant that they could get on the New York Times bestseller list, not because their book was any good. And I also,
contrast, on this show, we have people who have done nothing and are extraordinary authors, incredible writers, and that's why we want to do this, because they're not getting the recognition through these, big house traditional publishers, and that's why Jules publishes independently, and why we want to have people on who don't even have books out yet. And I get people who are like, I can't possibly be on your show because I haven't published anything. Are you writing? We want to celebrate you. We believe in writers. Yeah.
Absolutely. So my take on it is, I think I completely agree with what Adam just said. About you're not aspiring if you've written. An author is someone who has written something. It doesn't matter whether it's 2 lines or a haiku, or whether it's an essay or a PhD thesis. You're still an author because you've published work. Even if it's just you releasing it and saying, this is mine. So I think it's really important that, words matter, don't they? How we see ourselves, what we call ourselves, they matter.
And the way people see themselves too. You could be writing, or you could be writing for 10 years and then get your book published on the 11th year. It doesn't mean you just started, it's my first book. It's my first book with 10 years of experience. I think we beat ourselves down too much about, whether we get published or not, or where we stand in the, the literary community because of what we've done. But I mean, you've had it in you. You're just now ready to, release it. But your experience of writing, you've been a writer for a long time. And something I tell people sometimes is, don't say you're not a writer, or I used to be a poet, or no, if you are, you are, and you're just not doing it, or you're again, you just stop being hard on yourself, and believe in your work. I say, believe in your work, and because if you go into it feeling like you're not that good, then even if it is good, you're never going to believe it yourself. Even if people tell you it's good, you're going to think they're just saying it to make you feel good. No, believe in what you're doing, and write the hell out of what you have inside of you. And I mean, once we write and release it, it's not ours anymore anyways, right? Because people will, take it as and it becomes theirs. So don't be hard on yourselves, and just continue the battle and continue writing, and do it for the joy. Don't do it for the money and the fame, because that's very far and few in between. Authors really get there, and do it for all the right reasons, for the ones that make a difference in your community, or in the world, or just something that helps heal you. Sometimes we write for ourselves to heal, to get it out, and that's better than any royalty check or a book award. Honestly, those are sweet and nice too, but they get old after a while. Hey, I won a book award 20 years ago. But are you still feeling good about what you're writing? That's or are you still chasing that award, or are you still chasing that recognition? And sometimes that could be our downfall, and makes it hard for us to even write or be in that community, because we're not in sync with everyone else around us that's doing it for all the right reasons.
I think, I completely agree. You know, and I think being kind to yourself is really important. So what about in terms of like, let's say we've got you've got what's in your head onto the page, and then you're kind of thinking, I really want to do the publishing thing. I want to try and get published. What then? What do you go about doing? Do you go through self-publishing route? Do you go and find an independent publisher, attempt the big traditional publishers and face loads of rejections, or do it completely yourself? What routes did you take? This is open to everyone.
Well, for me, I feel like it depends on what you like. What are you trying to get out of it? Because you can do any of the routes and they can all be successful. Like there's plenty of people who are self-published that have more awards than some traditionally published. It's just, what are you willing to do and what are you willing to give up? Because traditionally publishing, if like say you get into it and you are successful, there are certain rights that you just have to give up, and there's certain things that they might just be like, hey, we don't want this scene or we don't want this character. And so if you have the ability to go traditional, like self-published, or if you want to go with an indie publisher, sometimes it's easier to keep that flexibility with your writing. And so like instead of getting all bogged down thinking like, oh, I have to be like, you know, because kind of going back to the previous point we were talking about, where it's like some authors think that you can't be a real writer unless you've gone traditional, but like you have to be okay with who you are and like try to find your best, like what works the best for you, sort of thing.
And I would add, like, either way is valid. I mean, small press, indie press, self-publishing, big publisher, those are all valid, but don't skip the editing steps. I think one of the reasons self-published authors get a bad rap is because they will write a thing and then they will immediately publish it, and they think they can just skip all these other steps, which no author is that good. I feel like I'm a pretty good author.
I'm a better editor of my work.
Destroys everything I write, and it goes through that process. Even if you can't afford to hire an editor, I recommend hiring somebody. Then you should be in a writing group. You should have someone who knows about writing that you trust, and like we edit each other's work, and obviously we also have our business where we edit other people's work too, but like everything you write should, before you publish it, you need to get feedback from other qualified, not just your mom or your someone who knows about writing needs to be working on that with you. Like do not skip those steps. I think those are really important steps.
Well, and especially the type of genre too. Like if you're trying to get a very technical sort of story out, you need people who read that kind of thing. Or if you're trying to get someone who understands more basic, like just very on the face of whatever it is, you need to get like that audience too. So it's like you have to get your beta readers, you have to get like critique partners or editors, or like there's a whole process. And
Oh yeah. We love the editing process here. I celebrate the joy of editing. I try and encourage all authors to find joy in it, because most cringe and freak out and hate editing. And
I love editing.
It's critical.
It's my favorite part of the process.
You gotta have it.
Yeah,
I love editing much better than writing.
Yeah.
It's more enjoyable.
Yeah. I think it depends on my mood for me.
And going back to publishing, I think for those that are going to self-publish, if they're going to spend money, spend it on an editor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cover though is also very, very valuable.
Absolutely.
Invest in an editor. If you're new to writing, if you're new to publishing, join, get on workshops, look for affordable ones, join a community of writers. Don't always give your work to someone who will always give you the same feedback by saying, "No, it's wonderful." If that person says it's wonderful every time you write it, then you need to like look somewhere else and get something that's going to give you some really important feedback. But if writing is just part of the whole the bubble, I think there's so much more that goes into it after you've put down your manuscript. Then the good work starts, right? Looking what stays, what comes out, placement of things, and just rejection. Going back to rejection, if you're serious about writing, then wear those rejections like a badge. You know, they come with the territory. It's just not a. It's like a baseball player that's hot, you know, and is a great batter. He's going to go through a slump, you know, and he's going to get they're going to strike him out in big moments of the game, and he's going to not do well. But doesn't mean that baseball player isn't going to come back and do something good. I always try to use a baseball analogy. I don't know why, but
baseball is interesting because, like, if you're a good batter, what is it like? Less than a third of the time you're successful. Like that's a lot of
rejection.
Right.
Rejection creates, like, it gives you this buffer to, like, be okay with, like, when readers, because not every reader is going to love your work, even if it's perfect. So, like, rejection will help you be like, well, you know what? I don't mind that they didn't like this.
you got to build up a callus.
Yes, exactly. You need
Which I'm not very good at, but one day.
and sometimes we'll have a piece of ours that gets accepted that's not one of our favorites.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we're pushing that favorite piece of ours that never gets picked up. So again, you know, you have to let go and just keep working at it. You know, I have a friend who starts a blog at the beginning of every year to see to get to 100 rejections. See how fast she gets to 100 rejections in the year. And so she turned it around from, you know, being sad about it, I guess, to, you know, accepting it and showing others also, hey, yes, I get published a lot, but I get rejected a lot more.
Exactly. And that's that. I don't know. It's like this fearlessness. And I don't know if Jonathan bringing this up is going to embarrass him completely. But one time it was not with writing. But when you were a kid, you told me how you tried to get how many rejections from girls asking them out?
To like prom or something.
Yeah,
I got a ton. I mean, I did eventually get a yes from a really attractive lady, but like,
but you wouldn't have.
But it was fun, and we had like a game, and everybody in the school was like counting on it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Try to get so.
But those are mostly strangers. Like I'm in the hall.
Yeah, but like rejections and everything. People are so negative about rejections, and I'm like, being rejected is good.
It was like honestly. A vaccine. It made me immune from rejection for the rest of my life. I don't even care about being rejected by people anymore. So it's like.
I would extend that to the end of the writing process. I try not to read reviews because they're soul crushing. But sometimes there's value in them, and you have to be able to parse each review and see what they're offering. Now, there have been reviews where I hate this character versus, you know, or something like messy grammar. At that point, I'm like, oh no, let me go back and fix that.
Right.
But the other piece of advice I've gotten as far as rejection is, especially coming from reviews at any point in the process, where it's your beta, I have a gamma reader who's like right before the ARC readers. Whatever you did, move that person so much. They hated your character so much. It created such a fire in them that they felt the need to write this review. And that's a score. Like whatever you did, if they're writing like a screed of why they hate this character, it's like, I must have done something right. Because I don't think or want everyone to like my main character all the time. Exactly. So yeah, it's a badge of honor. Like you were saying, as far as, you know, the 100 rejections for the year, it's the same thing. Same thing. I like bad reviews every so often.
I saw this one author who they used this bad review in their marketing, and they actually turned into ads, and it was really funny.
That's cool. There was someone who went on, was it America's Got Talent, who did a similar kind of thing for all of the songs that she sang, and she created a song based off of all of the reviews that she had, and it was amazing. She just turned it around. Yeah, it was really good. I think it was America's Got Talent. Yeah, but it's the same kind of thing where she kind of took all the negative stuff she had heard and turned it into something amazing. I suppose that's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Another thought before we get any further off this is you have to realize what's good information and good content and criticism versus what's not, because it's really easy to spiral down that hole of, oh my goodness, I might not be a good writer, or this is trash. I say, look at the feedback everyone gives across the board. If everyone is saying your grammar sucks, or this character doesn't make sense, or they're flat, that's when I listen to the information. And also when they, it's the screed of hating of character, because I find that funny. Sorry.
No, I think it's great.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
It's great.
The book that Jules is publishing of mine is called The Starting End. And I had over 100 rejections of it because the content was too intense, shall we say, for most people.
That's a good word.
Yeah, it's a little intense. And so, yeah, I got over 100 rejections on that book. And they did feel like it was early on, because I sent out a bunch of queries, and Jules picked it up fairly early on, and so for months I just kept on getting all these rejections of people going, oh no, we can't do anything with this, oh god. So it's you'll find the right people. I knew when I wrote the book that because the subject matter is so intense, that I was writing it for a small group of people, and the people who are going to want to read it, I think, are going to appreciate it and celebrate it and stuff. And I think that's who we're doing. We're writing to specific people. We're not. I mean, I don't think that most of us are writing to everyone. I don't think
you can't write to everyone. That's like a false idea. People who think that the whole audience is every single person. Like, that's nice, but like everyone is so different. It's better to find like a group of people and just write to that. You'll be the most successful that way.
Directly to that group. Yep.
Yeah.
Another thing to remember about the people that do the acceptance for the big houses, they're looking for mass appeal.
Yeah.
They don't like to take risks. They're looking to mitigate that risk as much as possible. And so they look at, let's say Twilight came out last year and it's really popular. They're going to want to publish a bunch of Twilight clones. And that's great if that's what people want. But like, if you're writing something unique and original or groundbreaking, or that appeals to a very specific audience, the big publishers don't really want that.
Well, same with movies too. Yeah. Like, that's why you get that's why I prefer independent movies, because it does push it pushes us instead of just like the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So, and if you're writing because you love writing, not because you're trying to get as many books sold as possible, then there's going to be a very different outcome.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I would like to get paid for my writing. I'd like to pay a few bills. Do I think I'm the next, I don't know, John Scalzi or whoever we're looking at? Not right now. It's interesting. I had a conversation with Jim Butcher, who wrote the Dresden Files, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, he's great.
And I said something like, I want to be the next you. And he said, hell no, you're going to be the first you. And I was like, oh my God, I love him. And it was meaningful because the Dresden Files is why I got into writing. And so do you, if you want to make money, do that. Just realize you're going to have to write to trend to a certain extent.
I think a lot of it has to do with our lack of ability as writers, most of us, to market. And I think that we need to tap into something. I think there are a lot of websites that help. They're expensive, but they do the job for you. All you have to do is punch your information in. They make your ads. They do your stuff, but it's expensive. And I feel like that's something that is worth it. If you're trying to make money, that's probably something you should do, is figure out a marketing website team to help you do the thing that most of us as creatives are typically not good at. So
there's also, small businesses like Liz owns a company called Editing Me that helps authors with publishing, with editing, with marketing, and sometimes I help with that as well. But
you just go to you find very specific businesses that will work with you. I think it's really important.
I think it's really good advice. I agree as well about the marketing thing. We're not, unless you are a marketeer and you're going into the writing business because you just want to do that as well. Most of us aren't marketers, so knowing how to market is an interesting industry, but tough. I think you're better off spending the money and getting someone to actually do it for you rather than
editing, the cover art, like Elizabeth said. Editing is key. Spend your money there. Yep, that's those are the first places to spend money.
Yeah, I would rank it as editing, marketing, cover art, or maybe
Sure,
those
three are all there.
The cover art, I'm very lucky. I have the same person doing my 2 series, and she's really good at knowing what covers are to trend. Like what I had before, my ideas, she was like, no, that doesn't make sense. This is not what people are looking for right now. It's it's a unique story, but it can fit the trend if you just put a cover on it.
Yeah, it's marketing tactics.
Yeah, yeah. And you need that team around you. You're absolutely right. I've got a cover editor, a cover designer. I have a marketing team that sets up interviews like twice a week. I found you guys on my own. But yeah, so I'm doing a couple interviews a week, but that's not including the ads. That's not including, the Facebook tours and everything like that. I say I treat this like my job as a 9 to 5. My husband works from home, so it works out. We're both in our offices from 9 to 5. And half my day is the first part of my day is marketing. So I do not recommend doing it on your own if you have no experience.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very good advice. Very good advice. Yeah, and I think as well, if you're a person who wants to be an author or aspiring author, and you're not sure where to turn, you can reach out to people here. What we'll do is we'll get people to do some reading. If you guys are all up for it, it'd be amazing. And we'll put your links up on the screen and also in the chat, so people can reach out to you if they have any questions, and also in the live chat on YouTube. So you come over here, join us over here. We can try and help you through the process.
Can I add another thing too? Go
ahead. Yeah, please.
If you're getting into writing, everyone for some reason jumps into these epic novels. That's very arduous. That's a huge task. I recommend write a lot of short stories and keep writing them, or poetry, or something small, and then submit it to a lot of different places. Like we publish anthologies, and we love working with new authors. We work closely with them, and we do a lot of edits and hand-holding that like a lot of the bigger places don't have time for. So if you find a small indie place that's publishing an anthology, that's a good thing to submit to.
Well, and then you understand how to work with editors too. Like if you do want to get to the traditional publisher, their editing, like they will, even if you have a really good story, they might just rip apart your story. You'll be like, am I even a good writer? But it's just because they're going to very certain standards. And so you need to be ready to deal with that. And so you should work with other editors before. Especially ones that you can't accept, like you can't choose. Like if you're just self-publishing and hiring an editor for your book, like you can kind of decide what you want. But if you have to go towards something that's like, kind of like, no, this is our style, you have to go to this. Like, I think that's a really good thing to kind of involve yourself with and let yourself hurt a little. And
by the way, we almost always have some multiple open submissions on our website.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for telling us about that. I have someone I'm going to direct your way who I don't think they're watching right now, but because you're right. And I've heard that advice from a lot of people that starting with short stories, starting with pieces that are fairly digestible, quickly processed. You can go through it quick. Not only is it good for readers to help you get your name out as an author, but also the editing process, like you just said. The editing of a 600-page novel that deals with heavy issues is, like you said, arduous. But having somebody go through 5 pages of your story and be like, why don't we change these things around? You don't have so much of an investment in it. You haven't put 600 pages worth of effort into something that then somebody's recommending you change. You've put 5 pages of effort into something, and you're more typically going to be more receptive to the recommendations and edit suggestions and stuff.
Exactly.
And I've had multiple, Jules, I see you laughing at me. I've had multiple people edit my 600-page book because I love constructive criticism. Got lost there for a second. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Sorry, you've got my bug from last week where I couldn't speak.
Right. You were stumbling over yourself. Yeah, sorry.
So my last,
Reading, or do you guys want to talk about some more stuff?
I just want to put in one last piece of
Yeah,
advice. And this is my opinion. I realize not all people feel this way. Good grammar is important. Just as a rule, I'm not talking about poetry because that's a completely different animal that I don't understand. I'm not adept at writing poetry, but you have to learn the rules before you can break them. I think, you can make stylistic choices once you understand what the choice actually is.
Yes.
If you don't want to start, most people would be annoyed if you start all your sentences with the word and or but. If you're doing that stylistically, that's totally fine, but you should know the rule that you're breaking so you can understand how to best use it.
Yes, exactly. Completely agree.
I'd say the one thing I wish authors would focus more on is learning how to use commas and
Yes.
semicolons effectively.
So
That's like the
many.
number one thing that we see.
Yep.
There's a lot of. Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say in regards to what Matilda just said, and the comma thing also the sort of this is the way it has to be has been so rigid for so long that people are finally having the opportunity to break some of these rules, like you just said, and still be accepted as legitimate writing. I think that I have certain rules that I use that I have to have in my writing that I don't break just because it's my own brain and I'm not happy if it. Oh, sorry, that's my dog. I'm not happy if it's a certain way, but I love reading other people's writing that's way different. That's totally different than mine, especially if it's good and uses those broken rules effectively. I love it. I really, really love it. And so I don't think that what am I trying to say? I don't think we're going to stick with traditional grammar laws for too much longer. I think that they have established things, but I love the celebration of dialogue and grammar as spoken word type things. I love it. So I'm excited to see where it goes. But you're right. I think that it helps to know some of the rules in advance before breaking them so that you can then understand how breaking them can become an effective tool in your writing.
Yeah. And you've been a beta reader for one of mine, haven't you? Or a couple of mine. So, and you and I have different opinions about specific aspects to do with that. And that's fine because it works for what I write and for what you write. So, and it's individual styles. And I think that's, again, that unique voice, which I think is really important. So, I
write everything in third person from a narrator's perspective. And I just finished reading a book where every chapter was a different character's first person perspective. So you had to figure out who you were in, whose shoes you were in every chapter. It was
wow.
It was awesome. By the end, I was the beginning of every chapter. By halfway through, I was like, all right, who's this? I loved it. I got totally sucked in by it. So I wasn't expecting that. It was totally different than anything I do. And so I celebrate different styles.
We're in the process, like I said at the very beginning, you and I are in the process of doing a collaboration together, which is again completely breaking what's out there. It's a very different style. So we shall see. And that's different people's heads, isn't it? And it's out of our comfort zone for both of us for various reasons. There you go. I said I may leave some breadcrumbs, and there you go.
All you do is tease. You don't tell anybody anything about the book that we're writing. That's so hilarious. And I won't tell anybody because you just have decided that it's not appropriate to share any of our details. So we'll keep it. Do you guys want to read? You want to read? Let's get some reading. Yeah.
Who would like to go first? Matilda, would you like to go first? Or I don't mind. Anyone can go first.
I'll go. No one's jumping.
Yeah, you go first. Yeah. So you can read whatever you like. There's no restrictions. So and yeah, what we'll do is put you on the big screen and you'll have the whole thing to yourself. We'll be here, but like in the background. So just let us know when you're reading. Introduce your book at the beginning and where we can get it from. And I'm not sure if I'm clicking on this or you. I'll do it just in case he's not doing it. Hang on a second.
Right. There I go. Please excuse my messy office. So I'm going to read from Unearthly Magic. It is the first book in the Black Cauldron Detective Agency series. And it's about mages who happen to be detectives. I'm going to read the beginning of the first chapter of the book, and hopefully you enjoy. I smoothed my long, black, wavy hair into a secure ponytail, then pretended to take a few selfies of the poster with some god-awful movie that my best friend made me see behind me. The zoom on cameras was amazing these days. With a quick swipe of my fingers, I saw the man on the platform across from me as clearly as if I were standing next to him. He didn't look like anything special. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm so sorry. I read page 2, not page 1.
You're totally fine. Everything's totally fine.
Oh my goodness.
You're fine. Take your time. It's not a problem at all.
I'm sorry. Can I start from the beginning?
Of course you can. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm
Take
so
your time.
sorry.
No, don't worry. Last week, I literally, I couldn't say sentences last week. I don't know what people must have thought. I'm sure people thought I'd been drinking before, so don't worry. I hadn't.
Goodness. Promise I have not been.
Fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. This is page 1 for real. Someone was getting hurt tonight. I didn't want to do it, but from everything I read in my target's file, this man wasn't the type to go down quietly. Though my agency didn't usually take jobs that required getting our hands dirty, the money was too good, and business was slow. He was a bad man, allegedly, so making a few bucks from this transaction didn't bother me much. Transaction. That was what my partners and I decided to call this manhunting mission for an even scarier guy, a mobster, just to ease our collective conscience. I shook my head and focused. One reliable thing about Manhattan was how much time riders spent standing on the platforms waiting for trains. The other thing that was always there, were people waiting no matter what time of day. Tonight was no different, and that worried me. If my target fought dirty, there was a risk of casualties. Too many people around who might get hurt. I smoothed my long, wavy hair into a ponytail and pretended to take a few selfies with the poster behind me of some god-awful movie that my best friend made me see. The zoom on the cameras was amazing these days. With a quick swipe of my fingers, I saw the man on the platform across from me as clearly as if I were standing next to him. He didn't look like anything special, not someone who did the heinous things I was chasing him to talk about. He was maybe a hair's breadth shorter than average height, with thick, light brown hair parted to the left and neatly trimmed above his ears. His face had no discerning features that would have linked him to one ethnicity or another, and his skin was warm olive, the kind that darkened 10 shades in the sun, and his round brown eyes told me nothing as they met mine. Shit. That was part of the book. After 36 hours of following this man around, he finally made me. Exhausted as I was, there was no excuse for this. I was a damn good detective, and I should have been on top of my game. I'd beat myself up later for not cornering him earlier and saving myself the trouble of a fight. The subway station was danker than usual, a mix of trash leaking across the platforms and into the tracks, marijuana, and the stink of someone eating something unfortunate like fish. I glanced at the puddles of grossness I'd have to avoid, both trash and the creepy men who watched my every move. They didn't scare me, but I felt terrible for the women who had to deal with this shit every day. Most ordinaries were terrible beings with no regard for one another or the earth. I like to think I was a good person, violent tendencies aside, and sometimes I wish I could take time off from my job and go all vigilante around the city. I was a gray mage and a talented one at that. No one would know the difference. Ordinaries would vaguely remember seeing a blur. Other mages would talk behind my back, but I was used to that. No one got into my line of work to make friends, and I was no exception. I'll stop there because it's a long chapter.
Thank you so much for reading. That was lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, great job.
So are the mages non-humans?
They are.
Okay.
They are humanoid. They can pass.
Yeah.
But no, they are different from humans in that they have a direct well of magic in them that they get from the earth. I mentioned that she's a gray mage, but all mages are elemental mages. So she happens to take the energy of the earth. She can manipulate anything that's earth-like, so dirt, plants, trees, and that's part of the reason why the book is called Unearthly Magic.
Mm.
So, and if you see the cover, it's on Amazon. If you just look up Matilda Ray as Unearthly Magic, it should pop up. Yeah, it's green. It's got a lot of foliage. Each book in the series focuses on a different element, with the same main characters, as they have different elemental powers. And once we get through the 4, we'll see what happens.
Nice.
I love all the covers for each, so very excited.
We'll see what happens, as in you might write a 5th book?
Yes.
Oh, exciting.
Yes, I've got thoughts for the 5th book.
And I'd love to ask, how about your process? Do you make notes? Are you an architect at all, or is it all free flowing?
I'm a planter, so I start with an outline.
Yep.
It can be just like 2 pages of like old school, Roman numerals.
Yes.
Where I just go down, where I'm like, okay, this is what has to happen. Then it turns into I use the hero's journey as a lot of my book has action in it. And, there is a clear hero in the story. So I start making notes of like what has to happen at, the beginning. What about the 12% mark where you should hit, the first, I'm losing my thoughts here. The first speed bump, if you will. And so for me, it's really easy to start matching it out. Like, okay, this needs to happen by the halfway point. Now, I don't know how it's going to happen. I have ideas. Like, I know chapter 3, I need this to happen and these people to speak and end this way. But I have no idea how I'm going to accomplish that.
Interesting. Cool. Yep. That's good.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love the little bit as well that you did, that Adam commented in the chat.
Oh,
You
thank you.
said it was part of the book.
That's not part of the book. That's not part of the book either.
That was funny. Thank you so much for reading.
Oh no.
Thank you for sharing. You're right. Oh no. If he pops back in, he may have had an incident.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Jonathan and Elizabeth, would either of you like to do some reading?
Well, I can go. I've got mine. So I've got a couple tiny pieces. Is that all right?
Real quick. We're gonna pop you on the full screen again.
Okay.
Introduce yourself one more time. Tell us where to get the book and go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm reading from this book. It's called Deluxe Darkness. So it's actually a combination of our first best-selling anthology, Collective Darkness, Little Darkness, which is all little teeny tiny things, and then The Darkness Between, which is sort of medium-sized stories. So, and it's like 3 books in one. So, and the first piece I'm going to read is called The Piper's Song, and it's a poem. It's from The Little Darkness. This boy is deserving of a fate unnerving. Echo in the walls is the death that crawls. The lad will not fail to face tooth and nail of the mad piper's rats that devour whole cats. The deadly throng was reigned by my song, and so paid at last the rats end their fast. Do you not fear that last sound you'll hear? Is my tune too weak under that deafening squeak? Okay, and then the next piece, this is a flash fiction, is from The Darkness Between, and it's called Only Darkness Remains. There's a darkness theme in these books. Okay. A blind woman straddled the wall, clumsily searching for the entrance to the soup kitchen. I stopped and turned back to offer my assistance. Ma'am, I said, realizing she could not see the operating hours. I took her by the elbow. The kitchen is closed for the night. Oh, I see, she said. Her eyes had been sealed shut by yellow crust. Thank you, dearest. I'm so hungered. When she spoke, I thought I saw a phantom eyeball protruding from her throat. Yes. Oops. Yes, I can see that. She was nothing but skin and bones draped in tattered rags. I panged with guilt. Can I feed you something? She took me by the hand, smiling. Why, yes, I think you can. I appreciate the invitation to sup. Then her eyelids burst open as flames of lightning and chaos penetrated my retinas. I stood erect, unable to move, as she sucked my sight away as a mosquito drains blood. I was overcome by sudden midnight. Her laughter was cruel, as all vision was purged of me until I finally collapsed into a mass of formless void. And when I was awakened, the thief was gone, but the darkness remains, and a new hunger forms in the back of my throat.
Ooh. I love that one. Okay, I'm just gonna read just one of my stories, just because the other ones are a little longer, but this one's really short. So it's the bonus story in the Deluxe Darkness. It's called "Ghost in My Soul." There's a ghost in my soul who haunts me at night. His shadowed form drifts just out of reach, ready to pounce. He stares at me while I sleep and trails me when I walk through unlit halls. I feel his fingers up my spine, his breath at my neck. In the dark, I convince myself he isn't real. Yet, I know he's there. Some nights I hardly notice, but others, he is the clamp on my chest, the reason my lungs squeeze tight, and he will never let go. The end.
Thank you so much for reading. I gotta say, Jonathan, I really liked while you were reading how Elizabeth was like, wow.
Yeah, animated.
That's so
She's heard these stories before. She knows what happened.
No, thank you both so much for reading. That was marvelous, and that's so cool that you've got not only this huge volume with a similar theme, which we have ideas of doing something similar, and but the reading was great. Your delivery was slow and paced just right and you put voices in it. It was great. Yep, totally fun.
Cool, thank you.
We also do audiobooks too with real actual
with real
professional
narrators.
voices.
Yeah. That's true. Collective Fantasies just came out, our audiobook for that, so super exciting. Collective Darkness is another audiobook we have. They're both on Audible. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Jules, you're muted.
Yeah, I just realized what I can do. If I put you on the big screen, I can do the same for you as well, Matilda, and obviously the same for you, Edward. Is if you can hold your books on, then is because of technical difficulties, I wasn't able to get them onto the thing to put them up on the screen for you. Hang on a second. So let's put your one up. So this is your book. Oh, books.
Look at them all, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we normally like to have the image actually pop up on the screen for people, but this will work.
No, that's lovely. I love the middle one, like the design of it.
I know, I really like it. So.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I like the cover of this one so much that I had it tattooed.
What? Oh, cool.
She's got one on her ankle.
Mm-hmm. But I'm wearing tights, so you can't see. So.
Otherwise, she'd kick it up.
It's not that kind of show. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, maybe the next show, whatever.
All right, hang on a second. It's everyone. So, Matilda, shall I put you on the big screen as well? Are you able to show your one?
I don't have either with
me.
You
don't have it. Okay, I will see.
It was a printing error. So I have like 50 books with a huge error in the middle of it, like a chapter missing.
Oh.
I've got 50 books. So they're in the closet right now.
Oh,
I know how that feels. Not for a chapter missing, but I had the same done with the front cover of my second book. And they on the spine has one title, and on the front cover
who's the wrong title on the
spine? No.
That hurts me for you.
Painful mistake.
Brutal.
I designed the cover for Collective Vision, so it was like my first time, and I screwed up the first one, and we printed it out, and we actually ended up selling them. But we did it like 2 more times before I got it to like look okay.
Well, and I wanted to, since we're talking about publishing today, I wanted to say to the people who are watching, to other writers, the first book I put out on my own, self-published through Amazon. I did it through Kindle. There are several other different companies you do. It was a lot of work that first time, But once you do it once, you never have to learn that process again. And it's so much easier to release your second and third books. And I had, like, just like both of you were talking about, I had some little errors, nothing major that caused a huge problem. But I went back in, edited stuff, changed the document. I even changed the cover image slightly on this to make it just oriented a little bit differently. But yeah, the process is a lot to learn initially, but then it's actually really user friendly. And publishing your own stuff, if you have the time to do it that way, it doesn't cost anything except the printing of your own copies. If you want to sell physical copies of the book, it's pretty user friendly.
I go to comic conventions to sell my books and do workshops on writing. Yeah, so I always have like a trunk full of all my books, and yeah, it hurts. Broke my heart a little bit.
Yeah, it's I did a school visit, and I tell you what, it was the most exciting and terrifying time. You know, my history is education, so I'm not shy at public speaking at all. And I thought I was just going to be seeing a couple of classes, and it was the entire school. It was 11 classes. And in them, I actually came dressed up as one of the characters from my story. And that was fun in 30-degree heat, when you're dressed in all black and this costume, and you're literally racing around from classroom to classroom. But what was really cool was, because my background is education, I was then asked to do some creative writing classes. And I'll never forget, I had this really sweet boy who was asking a lot of questions throughout. And at the very end of the session, he came up to me with his short story that he had written in the lesson that I just taught, and said, "Can you sign this for me?" And it was just like, honestly, it was just not the sign, not because I was giving an autograph. He was just so sincere and like, this is my work and please do it.
You created it, yeah.
It was amazing. And then I had a cascade of other children then queuing up wanting me to do the same, which was just for me, that was just amazing. That was, yeah, I felt really, really, like I had done something good. It wasn't about me getting the recognition. It was about having the kids realize that, because it was all about mental health and dealing with problems and things like that, and how to find solutions to it. And so I felt like I'd really touched some hearts, and that they felt like I'd listened to them, which was lovely. Yeah, it was a really nice experience. So yeah.
Edward, would you like to read to us?
Yeah. I was just about to say that. Well done.
Yeah.
Adam, do you have any breakdowns?
Oh, we'll come back to that. Let's focus on Edward. Edward, we'll pop you on the screen. Introduce yourself again. Tell us where we can get your books, website, anything more, and then read a few pieces for us if that works, or a couple of poems, or whatever feels good to you. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. So my name is Edward Vidaurre. I am the publisher of Flower Song Press out of McAllen, Texas, and I'm also an author of 8 collections of poetry. And I'll be reading a couple of new poems and maybe 1 or 2 from one of the collections. This is a new one, and it's titled How to Resurrect a Rainbow. 1. Fist your hand through the earth and pull up the rot. 2. Save your tears in an envelope addressed to the 4 winds. 3. Walk the banks of the river and look for outstretched hands. 4. Boil milk for children. Don't use the microwave for anything. 5. Write a letter to the editor in cursive. 6. Play music before bed and let your dreams sing along. 7. Let your children wear pink. 8. Draw hearts. 9. Sage your pets. 10. Vote. This poem is titled God Is. 1. God is an open wound a kung fu movie, and a celestial sicario. God made our president with leftover road cotton and grackle droppings. His sandals are of leftover human skin from the factory of suicide rock stars. Today he wears the kneecaps of Janus to match his UFO belt. God is unfazed at 3 p.m. He whispers to me from a 6 feet distance. God lays naked on steel surfaces with his long hair covering the shadow of men. God has a sticker on his chest that reads, I voted. He's nonchalant. He has a twin. She does all the good work. 2. God is your God's God, yoga and breathing. She is the breath of life. Latex gloves and exhaling the sun over mountains. She is the blamed, the curve, the torn Achilles heel. God is a beat poet, the coming strain, the big question, the control, the last minute mind changer, the finger on the gun, the safety switch. God is the ultimate filter, the event planner, the street cleaner, the thing in the sky that was there and then was not, the ventilator, the death toll. She knows the bodies are coming. 3. God is language, a lisp and stutter. God has Down syndrome, the autistic genius, the only child. From the other side of the tracks, have you ever thought of God as old, the wrinkled hobo and toothless smoker, the girl next door, the square-jawed bad hombre, creator of a new earth between ellipses, growing peonies on hyphens? God is soil and water, the trans angel, the monk making booze, the anorexic gargoyle breaking off a ledge, the movement in the painting. God's number is 8 digits behind bars, the noisemaker, the vuvuzela in purgatory, guilty. God is doing time. 4. God is a found poem, in exile, an unbelievable truth, an asteroid belt crash, mammoth, that sound, that silence. 5. God is tired of rising on Easter. God is trying to figure out the diameter of this pandemic, writing ghostly hymns for the dead. Did you not know God was the celestial laureate? Sky writings, the sounds you hear in the morning of birds and wind chimes, speeding cars and barking dogs. Did you think the sound was just that? Commotion? God writes those sounds into existence every day. I know when God is in a Motown mood, a hippie rock, or just a lounging jazz mood. And when it's too quiet, God let the whiskey get the better of him. 6. God likes to drink with me. I listen. And then I'll read something that's prosy. It's titled Autumn 2016. The little girl with amber hair first came to me in the fall of 1989. She sat with her back against me, not too far from the pile of fire ants that aggravated me every day. I remember she had this large pink bow in her hair, Mary Jane shoes, and a small plush doll that she always rested between her right underarm. She was an only child. Her parents were separated by alcohol and domestic violence, and finally, too many sleeping pills. She lived with her grandmother in the house that sits on 1.5 acres, about 20 skips away if you have long legs. Something about trees that humans find good use for. Piñatas on birthdays, a large tire for swinging, carving out their love's initials, sticking firecrackers in the tiny holes, climbing, which I don't mind at all, and like the young girl, someone to cry and speak to. Just about a foot away lies buried the family dog. He was old and sick and was put to sleep. She cried and visited him often. I saw her grow and she stayed loyal to me, especially in the fall. This is when she laid near me on a blanket and stared at the sky for what seemed like hours and hours. She cried and wrote in a journal and had her first kiss on the other side of me, where the woodpecker left a decent hole for her to stick notes in. She was only 16 in the autumn month of November when she had her first kiss. The boy was afraid, and so was she. He had tamed hair, black with a sharp chin and brown skin. Her eyes were like my leaves, an orange and light brown hue of early December. I never saw much of the rest of the family. They gathered in the living room and kitchen or sat up front with the ash trees. There, the squirrels chased each other for long sessions, and all I could hear were the rustling of leaves and branches and the occasional giggle from the adults smoking marijuana and listening to Tejano music. She was the only friend to my looming branches that gave the impression of wanting to be grabbed and broken off. She didn't do that, though. She caressed my leaves and appreciated my shade. Late September of 2016, she came to me at 3 a.m. I felt something graze my branches several times before I felt a pull and a nervous hurrying motion. Then a long weight came down on me. God blinded me. All I could do was make out muffled sounds. In the morning, the sun's heat put me to sleep. Over the years, I have discovered this is what happens to us when human tragedy and nature come together. Her name was Autumn. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for reading. Thank you. Those were beautiful pieces.
Thank you.
And your style, the numbering off the things in the first piece, and then how you used that again but differently with the second piece of the God Is. Very cool style, man. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
When you talk the second piece, when you talk about the skipping and the background to the characters or the people within that was just very heart hitting. Very relatable in the sense that everyone's had some sort of hardship in their life that they can sort of imagine feeling in a particular way, and that certainly did. I felt like it was a very emotional journey. From start to finish. Very good. Thank you.
Even the mention of the dead dog and stuff. Yeah. Wow. Yep.
Yeah. My dog.
That's that emotional journey. That those memories. I feel like that brings up stuff for you. You say that brings up multiple memories for many of us.
Yeah.
I think my dog started barking on the part of the barking dogs.
It was adorable. I thought it was
we foster dogs, so I've got 5 dogs with me right now. 2 are foster fails that we kept. 2 were rescues, and then there's one that's kind of here in limbo with, between staying and between being taken to another to get adopted or something. But I don't know. She looks like she's going to become another
part of the family.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We have a rescue. So they're hard. It's hard to look after a rescue because they're not yours from a puppy normally,
right.
and so there's a whole history there. They've lived a whole life before even coming to you, and there's so much heartache that they've experienced.
Or even when they're puppies that have been taken away from their mommy.
Yeah.
Sometimes when they should be breastfeeding, they're taken from them, or the mother didn't make it or left them, or they were just separated. So yeah, they bring nothing but joy to the household.
We love dogs here. Our dogs tend to make an entrance at some point or another during the show. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah.
Adam, would you like to do a bit of reading today?
Oh, sure. I'd love to do some reading. Yeah. I can do a section. Why don't I do that? If that's cool.
Yeah, of course it is. Hang on, I'll put you on the big screen. There we go.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I'm Adam Andrews Johnson. I'll be reading from my first book, The Mantis Variant. There's a little reflection. Available on Amazon for $2.99 for the ebook, $2.99. I think it's $9.99 for the paperback. Yeah, so I'm going to read from that book, but I'm going to do it from my computer, so it's right in front of me. This is chapter 18 from The Mantis Variant, Massacre. I can hear the cosmic music from the radiation of the universe. A woman was speaking, and her voice echoed from multiple locations along the alley where she was cornered. I can taste the elements that burn in the stars. She sounded like a goddess. I can see the world. I can see eons. I look into distant corners of alien galaxies. There was wrath in her words, and they reverberated against the old concrete walls. There was also wrath in her weapons. Black discs of shadow hovered in the air like holes punched in reality, voids in the atmosphere. From them protruded headless skeletal torsos of smoke that were armed with weapons made out of darkness. The woman's shift powers were horrific. The apparitions impaled with spears, slashed with swords and clubs, and crushed with clubs and maces. Demi-fey flesh was severed and pierced by the void warriors, and the cries of the dying rang out through the nearby streets of Teshin City. Bodies were broken and limbs were lost, and skulls were smashed by the shadow weapons. Any survivors of the massacre who tried to drag themselves away from the chaos were nailed to the pavement by massive pikes of smoke. All who entered the alleyway were utterly ruined, butchered by headless enemies against whom they were powerless. From his position of observation, Talon helplessly watched the evisceration of his underprepared team. The individual they were supposed to be hunting slaughtered them all, and Talon cursed his Demi-Fey enhancement, giving him a perfect view of the devastation that befell his crew. Claw 1 was decapitated. Claw 2's arms were both lopped off above the elbows. She fell to the pavement, writhing and screaming for a moment, but was skewered and fell still with her blood surrounding her. Claw 4 was smashed and slashed. He turned to flee for the mouth of the alley, but was hamstrung, and he crashed to the street. He roared in agony, but he activated his Demi-Fey regeneration ability and focused it on his grievous injuries. Horrible weapons of darkness cleaved 5, 6, and 7 until their bodies fell to the mangled, grimy gutter. Claw 4 was trying to crawl away and heal himself as the woman who was supposed to be the hunter's prey stepped up and stood over him. "Where are the others?" she asked in a voice that came from all around her. She did not wait for his reply, as another shadow hole opened and a headless torso rose from it. A massive battle axe was gripped in the apparition's bony fingers. It swung the weapon overhead, over where its head would have been, and like a guillotine, it brought the blade down on the man's ankles. I'm going to stop there because it gets kind of gory and twisted and gross. So, yeah.
Man, we love the gory and guts bits.
So, yeah. So my story involves people hunting each other, and so this is one time where these hunters did not do well. So yeah, Ba-doo!
I like the gore. It's very, very good. You write in a very poetic way. Like your writing is almost like the performance rather than just storytelling. And I don't mean to diminish stories at all, because
that's how I started. I started with poetry. I wrote poetry for years, and then I was in bands and wrote the poems became lyrics, and eventually I started writing stories. But I wrote poetry for years and years and years. Yeah, I've even in the book that Jules is releasing, there are multiple poems included that appear throughout that epic fantasy. I don't do that in the horror books. I considered it, but it seemed out of place. So, but yeah, I love poetry. So I appreciate you saying that it's got a poetic vibe to it. The flow and rhythm is really important to me. It has to feel right when spoken aloud, even when it's written down. That's a thing that's important to me.
That would be a good audiobook. It would be good. It's one of those.
I'd love to listen to an audiobook someday. Yeah, that's a goal.
I was just trying to imagine as well how one of your horror books with one of your poems from your other book in it, or something similar. And I was trying to work out how you'd fix that juxtaposition. Yeah.
And poems about relationships and poems about the earth and stuff. They don't really.
And then killing. Yeah, no.
You don't really need to crowbarred into this story. Yeah, no, not necessary. Well, thank you for letting me read. Do you want to read something too?
I can. Yeah, I can do. Hang on, give me a sec. I've got to find something. Hang on.
Weren't you prepared for that? No, that's all right. That's all right.
I wasn't prepared for you asking me that. Hang on a second. Shall I read something from my new one that I'm in the process of writing?
That would be so exciting. Little exclusive.
First draft.
Ooh.
First draft exclusive, so it's quite likely going to be a bit crap, but it's okay. I'm open to feedback. Hang on a second.
You're gonna pop yourself on the screen?
I can do, yeah. I'm just trying to find the page.
Ow, I just smashed my hand.
Don't do that. That hurts. All right. Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay. Hello. So I am Jules. What I will do is I will stick my website on the screen for you. That's probably the easiest thing. And on there, I've got an anthology and some poems, but I wouldn't call myself a poet. They're more just kind of musings that you can access if you join up as a member, which is free. You just have to sign in. Okay. Oh, I'm trying to work out where I can read from. Hang on a second. Let's read a little bit to do with Nady. Okay, so just to give you background, the story centers on a girl called Ray. It starts off with her being 16. She's now around 17 and a half-ish. And she's spent the last 2 books trying to find her sister and also being captured in a dungeon and fought loads of monsters. And the monsters are literal things in her world, but metaphorical in ours in terms of how she deals with her mental health and the fact she fails to deal with her mental health because of trauma. They just get bigger. And so she's now at the end of her journey. She's found her sister, but now there's going to be a bit of a problem between them. So I'm going to read that one. Hang on a second. So sorry, I am trying to find the bit I can't do it on this one. I'm going to have to go onto the big screen. Hang on a second. And my Google's not working. Yay. It's all working out tonight. Adam, curse you.
we're so casual. Don't you worry about it. We're so casual. This is exactly how it always flows.
You can tell I wasn't prepared because I've got literally nothing in front of me. I haven't even got my other books in front of me at the moment. Hang on a second. Okay. So yeah, so she's basically now having to protect her sister. Having been anointed as the sentinel, she's now the only one who can find the sage. The sage is the only one who's going to be able to save them all, but no one knows who the sage is. So Ray is just like a needle in a haystack, basically. She just doesn't know what she's doing. She's supposed to be great with a bow, but that's kind of just pot luck in the sense as not a skill that she's a very good archer. But that's about it. She doesn't, she's not great with a sword or anything. And she gets injured a lot. She's not the best warrior, should we say. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to read you a section. I can't find the bit I was looking for. Okay. First draft. Bear with me. The moon lifted high in the sky, bathing the land in a silver blanket that cast eerie shadows that danced as the breeze blew through the huge trees that loomed ahead. Whoa, my father talked about these, about how they were the elven homeland, but then man took the land from them, slaughtering every last one into extinction. The faraway gaze that Katori had softened the ongoing anger that simmered in my stomach for her. You must miss him, I asked in a gentle tone. Don't you think humans are cruel? She demanded in response, her voice cold. Well, sure, but I tried to respond. Before you lot arrived, this island was bursting with life, species you could only dream about, and humans hunted and killed many. Katori's eyes reddened as tears brimmed, threatening to drop down her cheeks in heavy drops. Hey, I reached for her, but she tugged her arm away. You know what happened? You know that happened long before now. We had nothing to do with it. If I'd been around then, I'd have fought with your people. Perhaps. She cast a sudden look and rubbed her eyes. Yeah, I do miss him. Tentatively, I stepped toward her again and spread my arm out, offering her a hug. Instead of embracing me, though, she glared at me with a frown. I'm truly sorry about your father. I wish we could have saved him too, I proffered, wishing it was true that he hadn't had to return to the citadel. He was a kind and decent man. Was? She shook her head. No, he's alive. I know it. How could you possibly know that? I asked. She shrugged and then returned to gazing at the forest ahead. Do you know the way? Knowing I wasn't going to get any further than in the previous conversation, I nodded. I think so. Once we leave the tour, we can either go to Nidella and follow the river which goes to the southern part of the Isle, but means having to cross country for a while. But once at the river, it'll be easy. We'll go the shorter route on the eastern side of the island, but it's more dangerous. If it helps, I'll protect you both regardless, okay? Why is it my decision? Katori raised an eyebrow, giving me a sideways glance at the same time. Because if I choose and it goes wrong, you'll blame me or the whole of humankind. I gave her a cheeky grin. Besides, this way I get to blame you if it's wrong. What about her? Katori pointed to Nayli, who was snoring softly. Don't she get a say? I sighed. And what do you think her decision will be? Nayli's hardly speaking to either of us and definitely won't want to travel through dark woodland. I guess she'll prefer the safest route. But I let my voice trail off at the end, not wanting to continue my train of thought. But, Katori nudged me, wouldn't the safest route be the best then? I turned to face her. My home was that way too. We follow the river. She'll see it destroyed. I'm not sure she's in the right frame of mind right now to be able to deal with it. You're worried about what it will do to her? Katori squeezed my arm. The tenderness of the gesture flooded my mind with the way Pa used to try and comfort me when I was either angry or upset, just before I'd leap into his arms. Having her arms wrapped around my waist was all I desired. The imagery shrouded every part of my thoughts, taking me by surprise, so I scratched the back of my neck as I tried to rid the unnerving thought from my mind. Katori glanced down at Nayli and then back to the trees. She appeared to be contemplating whether speed or safety was more important. Regardless of what she chose, my preferred choice would be the path well travelled. But from what I knew of the plucky and emotionally charged young woman that stood next to me was a sense of adventure, and so I already knew the one she would choose. Monster's Bath it is then. She gave a curt nod with a half smile and lifted the heaviness from her emerald eyes. You know that route? I asked, having never been there before. The name itself conjured up images of a pack of Rakshasa relaxing in the steamy hot springs that were identified on the map. No, Katori shook her head, making her dangling braids with beads on the ends tapped together, whilst the tips of her ears twitched. But with your bow and my brains, we'll find the right path. And I'm going to stop there. Hey, welcome back, everyone. Adam, you're muted. Hello, Adam. Edward, you're muted as well.
I like your.
Oh, whoa. Say that again. Sorry.
I like reference of Rakshasas.
Oh.
You get glitchy? Sorry. I like your reference of Rakshasas. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
My internet, yes. Can you hear me? My internet's gone really slow. Oh, have I gone? I'm still here.
I can hear you both.
You can hear me both. You can hear me.
Everything seems fine here.
Am I back?
Okay. Yep.
Oh, okay. That was weird.
Oh,
I
now
didn't
it's
hit
getting
any.
glitchy. I don't know what's.
No, it's weird. It's a bit weird. Don't know what happened. Can you hear me though?
Yeah.
Rakshasas. Very cool reference.
I think Adam is the slow one on the internet.
Yeah.
You think Adam's a slow one? Yeah, he's
Yeah,
kind
he's
of
frozen out.
Yeah, okay. That's all right. Adam, you've gone a bit glitchy. Why don't you I'm not sure. He's frozen in place by
He's like this.
Yeah, he was. Magic. Adam, you're kind of half. Oh no, he's gone. He'll be back in a minute. It's all right. I thought it was my internet. All I heard was the word Rakshasa, and that's it. I'm not entirely sure what you said. Hang on a second. He's back now. Hey. Can you hear us, Adam? You're like on your frame rate's decided it's gonna like go really slow.
Sorry.
I can see you moving, and I think you said sorry as well.
I don't know. I guess I can.
No, you're. Oh, that might be a bit. Hello.
What happened?
Oh, you
Can
sound
you hear
like
me?
you're back. That was hilarious.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what the hell happened. Yeah.
I thought it was my end for a minute. It's not.
Yeah, I don't know. I lost the screen and everything went away for a minute. Yeah, I got.
Don't worry. You
So,
stayed with
anyways,
us.
I was saying your reference to Rakshasas. Cool. Sorry, it took me so much effort to get that out.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I
seriously?
talked about a lot of mythology. Yeah. Yeah, you're back, Adam. Can everybody else see Adam?
Mhm.
We're all at the right speed. It's just Adam whose internet's a bit slow for some reason. Oh, he's had to go again. Bless him. Yeah. Right, we've got a couple of questions in the chat. I hope you like that read. It was a first draft, so I apologize for if it sounded a bit raw. But the character has she's in the process of exploring her sexuality. She hasn't really come to grips with it yet. She's never really experienced anything like that, so that's why she was a bit taken aback by that sudden interest in the women that was with her. So there you go. Okay, let's go to this question here. How do you find a publisher? Hi, Adam. Welcome back. Yes. Hello.
Did you even hear me say the word Rakshasas? Because that's
That's all we
That's
heard.
the only one.
just cool. Just cool that it's in there. Sorry. I don't know what's going on with my stuff.
It's fine. Did you miss the bit between Katori and Ray then? You missed that bit.
I heard your reading perfectly. Everything just glitched out after that. Once
that's all right.
Screen, it just went to chaos for me. I'm not sure why.
Did you catch the bit where Ray suddenly gets startled by her sudden interest in Katori? No.
I'm sorry. It's all glitchy on my end again.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Go. It's not working.
No,
Can you
you're
hear
fine.
me?
You're fine. You're
Thank
fine.
you
We're
all
going to
for being
end
here.
this
I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you perfectly. We've just got a couple of questions in the chat as well. But no, I was just wondering if you actually caught the little thing that Ray did. Anyway, it's not relevant. Okay, how do you find a publisher? What do we need to do to go and find a publisher? What do you guys do?
Well, it kind of depends on where you go and like what you want, because we kind of already talked about this like a little bit ago. But what are you hoping to get out of your writing, and what audience do you want? Because Jonathan earlier had talked about how, when we were talking all about like the audience, you have to know your audience, you have to get to that certain group, and you need to if you want to go to like an indie press, it's probably better if you have like a really abstract kind of story, right? And so you have to first, before you find that publisher, you need to just figure out where your story fits and who your readers are. And from there, just do research. I mean, first, if you want to go traditional, you should hit those agents before you hit the publisher, because agents are always going to help you with a better contract and get you more money. So you don't want to bypass the agent if you want to go to a traditional one or
If
a smaller
you're going to book.
If you're doing the book and stuff. But like there's plenty of indie publishers who are more easy to work with and who will work with you on the contract, so it just kind of depends on, once you establish that, then you just need to do research, go to critiques, go to conferences, conventions. In Utah, we have this really big writing convention called Quills, and you can pitch to agents and publishers at Quills, which is really cool. And then even if you don't get accepted by those guys, they can still help you and offer advice. So that's kind of where I would find it.
Yeah, we're kind of
That's
letter
amazing.
at your book.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if you're trying to publish short stories, you can find publishers like us. I'm just going to quickly pitch. So right now we have Collective Madness, which is open for submissions. That's short stories that are in the dark fantasy realm. We know dark fantasy. So, you know, monsters and things that are in a fantasy genre, and the theme is madness. So we'd love to see
a lot of psychological sort of stories.
Yeah.
We're kind of thinking, but
yeah. And so if you know, write in that genre, we'd love submissions for that. And then the other book that we're really working on a lot right now is called Collective Humanity. This is a charity book that we're working on. All of the money that we make from it is going to go to local Salt Lake LGBTQ plus charities that we're working with. And so the theme of that one is metamorphosis. So that's open to all LGBT people and allies, anyone who's not an asshole, pretty much. And the theme of that is metamorphosis.
Yeah.
And you know, we really want to focus on, I think, diverse and queer voices for that one.
Yeah, a lot of like you know, underrepresented voices. That's kind of, I mean, we won't reject a story if it's you know, from
By a
any
straight white guy.
of course we wouldn't reject that. That's but we do want to have an emphasis of, specifically just for this book, like we really want that emphasis on getting people who are underrepresented out.
And that one is open to, it's not just, that's short stories, any genre, poetry. We got poetry in there already, so
yeah,
a lot of good stuff.
I would say, and Elizabeth, you started to say this, is research.
Yes.
Research the publishers. There used to be a website, I don't know if it's still active, Editors and Predators, where people would go in and, you know, not just list complaints, but like someone would actually tabulate it and say, give them a rating, you know, say, this is a vanity press. This is what you're getting from this one. I know it has some older stuff. I don't know if it's active right now, but it's worth checking out. Also talk to people who are with the publisher you're looking at. If it's an indie press, maybe you know some of the other writers from a writing group or convention you've gone to. There's no harm in asking questions. And I actually just did this last week. What are the best parts of working with the publisher? What are the most difficult parts? What would you like to see work differently? Would you go with the same publisher again, essentially?
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's a business, you know, you're going into a business with this person, have legal documents and everything. So you should know the type of, not the type of people, that sounds terrible, but the people you're getting involved with. Yeah.
You're giving a lot away, and their role is to work with you. And I think there are, unfortunately, some people out there who it's all about the money, and that's great, but it's not actually what it should be at the focus point, you know, mainly because that doesn't write good books. That doesn't, you know, there are some, like I said at the beginning, New York Times bestsellers, which makes me wonder how they got there. But yeah, Edward, any last words from you about, you know, how to do that?
I use Duotrope because I also list my my call for submissions there, and it's very reasonable for the publisher as opposed to like Submittable, which can get a little pricey. But both of them are good. They have this huge search database for literary magazines and agents and all of that. You just need read the books that you read, and if they're in your genre, look up the press that's listed in the book. You know, just go and see what their calls for submissions are, their guidelines, and just remember to follow the guidelines. You know, don't write a book don't send out a piece about nature for a place that's looking for something that's, you know, horror or erotica or whatever. You know, follow the guidelines. You know, follow the guidelines. Respect it. You know, sometimes, I mean, they put it there clearly, 12-point font, Times Roman, and then you get sometimes submissions that are in these fantastic fonts that are, size 72 as a title, and they can be jarring, and just a word of advice, publishers and editors, they're looking for something they can read, not for something that's gonna like scream at them on the screen. It's and I think that's a very novice mistake. I remember when I first started writing, and again, I didn't know the first thing about submitting or anything, and I thought, the fancier the font, the better the piece. but you learn from it. But again, yeah, ask your community, look to see what it is that people are doing. But go to Duotrope. I think it's like $5 a month, and it's just endless. If you're on Facebook, there's a call for submission groups that you can join. I know I have a call for submission group. I want to say it's got thousands of members, and everyone that joins, they add their submissions for calls that they hear of or know of. And every once in a while, I'll go in there on a day where I'm just chilling and having coffee and put in like 15-20 submission calls from Duotrope as a, hey, I pay $5 a month, might as well share it with everyone to see if they can and tap into it. And a lot of people have gotten published that way, just like clicking on seeing what's out there. And also, if you're putting a book together, I mean, I'm talking poetry, you want to get as many pieces from that collection published somewhere, individual pieces, so that when you put your book together, the publisher you're sending it out to looks at it and says, well, other people loved your pieces, not just you. You're not the only one who thinks the book is ready, but you've gotten pieces in respected literary magazines and journals or anthologies and stuff. So they see that you're a worker, and publishers also want to publish people that are going to work their book, not just put it.
And I agree with that, but I also think that you don't want to, if you're submitting to a traditional publisher or any kind of publisher, you need to make sure that they have first, like if they say first rights. So if you publish something and then you try to publish that same poetry or that book somewhere else that only has first rights, you won't be able to be published by them. So I would be careful on that as well.
I think with poetry, it's different. I think with poetry, it's different where first rights, I think it's for the entire collection. But you give them credit, you will credit, and you put them in the acknowledgments, okay, such and such piece was published in the New York Times, such and such piece was published in the local newspaper. I'm not sure how it works with short stories, and I maybe
it's kind of the same,
excerpts of a novel and stuff like that. But a lot of the times, I'll notice when it comes to stuff like that, like prose or individual pieces from a novel, that they go through such an editing phase that by the time it gets to the book, they acknowledge the first publisher as it being published in some form of blah blah blah. So, but get in there, dig, and remember, just put it out there, a lot of it, send it everywhere, but read the guidelines, and if you get accepted somewhere, who just keep track of where you sent it, and then be mindful and write to them and say, this piece was accepted here, I'm removing it from the call that I just sent it to. And it's some people I know get one piece published in so many places, because I mean, nobody's going to do the legwork and say, I'm going to look up this poem and see if it's published somewhere else. They might, but it's just extra work. But I think out of respect for wherever it got published, you then go to the people that you've sent it to that haven't read it yet or accepted it yet, and let them know, hey, this piece got accepted. And that might be a good thing too, because they'll remember that you removed it because it was accepted. So, hey, someone beat me to it. I'm gonna look out for their next piece and see if it's something I want to grab before someone else grabs. That's just me thinking.
It's wonderful advice, because like I said, everyone's journey is different, everyone's resources are different, and everyone's experiences are different. And I think it's really important to be able to share that sort of wealth, because it kind of one aspect of yours, Edwards, might be linked to something that Elizabeth has said that then could be matched together then to create like their own journey, you know, and then a bit of Matilda's bits in there as well, you know. So I think it's really important to be able to have, you know, a broad spectrum of perspectives on it. I just want to, I'm sorry, Adam has profusely apologized on different platforms to say how sorry he is he had to dip out his internet, decided it wasn't going to work. So I'm sure he will say the same thing to me, same thing as me. I just want to say thank you to all of you for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'd love to have you back again. So if you'd love to come back and, you know, do another session,
Absolutely.
you're very, very welcome to. Yeah, stay in touch with us. If you want to be part of the Discord, message Adam or myself. Adam's the better one because he actually has access to the code, whereas my one keeps changing, which is not very helpful. So yeah, message him and he'll set you up so you can come and join us over on Discord, where it's just for writers and poets, and it's a safe space, I think, for people from all different backgrounds to be able to just, you know, provide support and just be there and offer guidance. And, you know, there's bits that I've learned today that I didn't know about, like duotone. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I should say massive thank you to your reads as well. They're all amazing. I really enjoyed listening to those. And like and subscribe, that'd be amazing if you can, and share the video, share the love. It's on YouTube, so if you want to have a listen again, you're very welcome to go back and see it. But anyway, I'm going to say farewell, have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and hopefully see you very soon. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.